Life.
Oh man, it's so good to have a full house again. Where were you last week? All you young guys with trucks. Vera Thomas came. She's one of our elderly ladies. She looks through the steering wheel to drive. She was here. And the next time it snows, I'm sending her to your house to pick you up, all right? Are you kidding me? Well, there's a bunch of us who worshiped. We had a great time, those of us who really love Jesus. Anyway, we're in a series titled Dinner with Jesus. Dinner with Jesus. Can you even imagine? When I was reading through the Gospels last year, this just jumped out at me. Every time, I love this about the Bible, by the way, that there's always something new, even with stories I know well. If I'm just open to it, there's something always new that jumps out. And this dinner with Jesus, I started noticing it happens a lot. Jesus, in the Gospels, he has lots of dinners with people, all kinds of people, not just friends, but sometimes skeptics, sometimes enemies, people who are critical of him. He has a meal with them. And in almost every story, there's a moment where he opens the window so you can see who he is a little better. It's like he opens the window to the kingdom and he says, come here, I want to show you something about the kingdom. And he opens the window into heaven, and he opens the window into truth. And there's always these moments where Jesus is revealing something amazing about him. But then it turns, and almost every time he opens the window and cracks the chest open of his host. And he reveals something inside them. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not a good thing, but he does this often. And so when you go into these stories, which I want to go in with you, we're looking for both. We're looking for what Jesus will reveal about himself and then what Jesus reveals about us. All right? And so today we have the story of the call of Matthew, which in this story, he's actually still named Levi. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. This is how God works. He works in just such an incredible way of grace. So King David of old had 8 wives, let's say. We really don't know how many he had, but he had at least 8. So let's assume that he's got 8 wives. Now, we were told that the Messiah of God would come through the line of David. That means one of these women will give birth to the king, give birth and be part of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. Now, I wonder which one God will use. The first wife, she should have some special privileges. She's the daughter of the previous king, so she's a princess. She has royal blood in her, and she has this high standard. She criticizes David for dancing in the street in his underwear, which what woman wouldn't, all right? And so she has this high standard, and she's calling David to be a better man than he is, and she's got the right pedigree. She's smart. She's got royal blood. It's all the things you would look for to bring the Messiah into the world. And then there's the 8th wife. The 8th wife is only in the palace because she was one of David's soldiers' wife, and David and her had an affair, and she got pregnant. And then David does the unthinkable. He actually sets up her husband to be murdered on the battlefield, and then he takes her as his wife. And she's only in the picture because of lust, adultery, lying, and murder. Now, between wife number 1 and wife number 8, which one will God use? And surprise of all surprises, in a moment of God's unbelievable grace for people, he uses the 8th one. Her name's Bathsheba, and she will be the great, 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 great grandmother of Jesus Christ. Isn't that phenomenal? The way God shows that much grace in someone's life, someone who shipwrecks their life that bad, and God goes, man, can I use you in the kingdom right now? Well, Jesus, of course, he has the same heart that his Father in heaven has. And so Jesus is putting together a collection of 12 disciples who are going to follow him, who he will call them, he will change them, transform their lives, and then they in turn will go out and turn the world upside down. And so this is all part of what's going to be Christianity for the whole world. You would think Jesus has a high standard for the person he's looking for, and he calls Levi, Matthew, who is a tax collector. Now, tax collectors back in Jesus' day were despised, unlike today. They were viewed as scum, they were viewed as sinners, they were viewed as traitors, because they were Jews themselves. They were collecting money for Rome, and yet they would raise the taxes. They were allowed, they had to give so much money to the authorities, but they were allowed to tax a little higher for their own, and they became very wealthy. And so, of course, the Jewish people, every Jew despised tax collectors except one Jew, Jesus. And so this is how the story goes. I'm going to be reading from Luke chapter 5, but I'm just going to tell you right up front, there are so many nuggets in this sermon today. Something somewhere is going to speak to you. And if you even just ask God for just a moment, Lord, just talk to just me today, somewhere it's going to happen. I'm going to throw a lot at you. Here we go. We're in Luke chapter 5, verse 27. After this, Jesus went out. He saw a tax collector by the name of Levi sitting at a tax booth. Follow me, Jesus said to him. And Levi got up and left everything and followed him. Really, can it be that easy? It was hardly a tug. You're just going to get up and leave your profession. I mean, he doesn't even take the time to log out before he leaves work. And it can't be that. Well, most scholars believe Jesus has been in this area now for some time. And every time he's in an area, crowds come out, and crowds have heard him preach, and crowds have seen him do miracles. And there's probably a good chance Levi has already been wowed by Jesus. He's already seen enough. And now here he is at work, collecting taxes. He looks up from his table, and there's this dude that everyone is talking about. There's this dude, he has seen things he can't explain. And this guy is saying to him, why don't you leave that for a while and just come follow me? Probably that's how it happens. Then Levi held a great banquet, that means dinner, for Jesus at his house, and a large crowd of tax collectors and sinners were eating with them. Man, for Jesus, what could be better? A chance to hang out with sinners, a chance to hang out with sketchy people. Look at me. Here's what I need you to hear today. Jesus wasn't so easily offended. If there's anything that offended Jesus, by the way, it was church people's self-righteousness. That offended him. When you and I go through life wagging our head at people, he does not like that. Jesus was not afraid to sit down with sinners. He wasn't afraid to make friends with sinners, with people who are far away from God. Levi here is trying to be a bridge more than a barrier. The Pharisees often were barriers before they were a bridge. Some of you are a bridge for someone. You haven't waken up to that just yet. But there's someone in your life who's far away from God, and God intends to use you as a bridge to help that person come into a relationship with him. Well, verse 30, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law who belonged to their own sect, that means separation, complained to his disciples. They didn't say this to Jesus, they complained to his disciples. That happens a lot in ministry, by the way. You don't come to me, you talk to someone else, all right? Just like a Pharisee. All right, I'm over it. Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners? Oh, my goodness. Someone's watching, Jesus. Oh, be careful. Someone's watching. Why did Jesus make these decisions? Didn't he know they would get him into trouble? Of course they would. I was invited to a lunch with a guy, and I said, where do you want to eat? And he said, there's a bar in town that serves food. He goes, you do that? Like, yeah, I'll do that. And so I'm in there, and I don't know anybody in there at all, so it's cool. And all of a sudden the door opened, and in walked two of our church's teenagers. And one of them's on the phone with his mom. And he's saying, Mom, it's no big deal. And he made eye contact with me. He got the biggest grin. And on the phone he said, Mom, even the preacher's here. He walked over to me and he went, my mom wants to talk to you. Well, I don't want to talk to her. You know? People were watching Jesus too. He was with some unquestionable people, hanging out with people. See, the Pharisees believed that if you hung out with sinners, it could contaminate you. Now, before you all wag your heads at the Pharisees, haven't us parents done the same thing? You don't want your kids hanging out with the wrong crowd. You got to be careful of the people you hang out with. Good morals are corrupted by bad company. Birds of a feather flock together. Be careful who you hang out with. Yeah, I kind of get it. Pharisees took it to an extreme. But you got to be careful who you hang out with. I've said that as a parent. But Jesus isn't done here. He's not mad at the Pharisees. He's trying to break open their hearts too to who he is. Don't think that Jesus was an enemy to the Pharisees. The Pharisees were often an enemy to Jesus, but it wasn't the other way around. Jesus loves them just as much. And so he's going to try to teach them. He's going to open a window here for a moment and reveal what he is. Verse 31, Jesus said to them, it's not for the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. You know, Jesus didn't say, they're sinners, it's no big deal. He didn't say, oh, I'm okay, you're okay, don't worry about it. That's not what he says. He calls them sick, by the way, which sick does not mean hopeless, but Jesus isn't saying they're not sinners. To all of our guests in the room, we're really glad you're here, but man, I'm going to be crystal clear. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, all things don't end up well at the end. That relationship has to be in place. Someone loved you enough to bring you with them today, to invite you here. Some of you are just so brave and gutsy. You walked in here on your own. That's not easy to do, to walk into a church that you don't know anyone. And I'm proud of you for doing it, but I'm not going to pull any punches with you. Jesus refers to you outside of a relationship with him as someone who's sick. Do you know when you're sick and you go to the doctor, the reason you do it is because you feel something is wrong, something is empty. You go to the doctor and you say, Doc, I'm not feeling right, something is off. And he's a physician and he tells you what has to happen for you to be healthy again. The same thing has to happen with God. You have to be willing to go to Jesus and say, something's not right. And I need help. And Jesus is called a physician. He knows you inside and out, and he knows right where to cut. He knows right where to apply salve. He knows right where to minister and to heal. But you got to be willing to confess that something's not well. All of us who are followers of Jesus, we all did that. So here's Jesus revealing his purpose for coming. And here's Jesus revealing that he doesn't share the same view of sinners that the Pharisees do. But let's get back to his host for just a minute, Levi. How did Levi walk away from such a prosperous job to just become a disciple of Jesus? How did he do that? Something was missing in his heart. There was a hunger there that was going unsatisfied. Success didn't satisfy him. Wealth didn't satisfy him. Having all these friends in his life didn't satisfy him. He could still tell that hole was unfilled. And so maybe Jesus offers some answers to all of this, and boy, Jesus sure does. You have a hunger that God placed in you, but sometimes we feed it with everything else but God. Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 5, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. They'll be filled." All right, real quick, hunger. Hunger in the natural world, you get hungry and then you eat. But in the spiritual world, you eat in order to maintain a hunger. You get what I'm saying? I pray and I read His Word. Steady diet of that, prayer and reading. And what that does in me, it keeps my hunger for God really high. But for those of us who we're not praying a lot, and we're certainly not reading the Bible, and we're starting to lose our hunger for God. And it's not hard to see. There's a problem. If you got a pet and they're not eating for several days, there's a problem. If you got a child and they're not eating, you know there's a problem. If you got a teenage son and he's not eating, you know there's a problem, all right? And in the spiritual world, praying, and so, you know, the initiative is coming here. Our elders have a big heart for all of our new people. We're going to take some baby steps in prayer. I want you to start praying a little more. Now, calm down for a moment. I'm not asking you to have 10-minute prayers, and I'm not asking you to go to a 1-hour prayer service and stuff. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking for baby steps right now. I'm asking you to do what I do all day long. I shoot up these arrows of prayer real quick to God. They're short and they're quick. Lord, give me the right words. Lord, help me to decipher what's going on here. Lord, give me insight. Give me wisdom. Lord, help me to navigate this situation. They're just that short, just quick little arrows to prayer. I pray them all day long. A colleague comes in, Lord, you know, help me to help the situation. You know, I'm with the spouse, and Lord, give me wisdom and patience. And she's not here. And dealing with a grown child. Lord, give me the right heart right now. Just those little short prayers. You can do this. It keeps a hunger inside of you for more of God. Levi is waking up to this thing that I have a hole in my heart, and Jesus is the only one I've discovered who can fill this need. Now, Levi is far away from God also. He's been rejected from the synagogue. He doesn't get access to God. He's turned his attention to all these sinners who are now nicer to him and closer to him than his own religious group is. And he's spending way too much time away from God. And here's Jesus saying, let me move you back in the right direction. A transformation is going to happen in Levi that's going to be shocking. Because Levi, his transformation will be so great that his name will have to be changed. Levi will become Matthew. It's the same Matthew that when you open up the Gospels, the first name of that first book is Matthew. It's the same guy. Out of all the people in this world, only 4 men have ever been asked to write the story of Jesus. And Matthew the tax collector is one of them. It's another moment of unbelievable grace of God. Now, Jesus had to do 3 years of sculpting here. Everybody knows Mount Rushmore. You recognize Mount Rushmore, but Rushmore took 16 years to create. 16 years. Way longer than they anticipated, because they knew it was they knew that it was granite, but they had no idea that it was some of the hardest granite in the entire world. Steel chisels would constantly break or shatter and needed to be sharpened. This whole thing, the largest sculpture in the world, began with precision blasting. Big bangs shook the whole landscape. With dynamite, nitroglycerin. After the big blast, then came in the jackhammers and the stone saws, and then they would do some more shaping. But at the end, it was just a handheld chisel and a hammer, just bringing it smooth, knocking off every rough piece. That's how God works in our life, by the way. Some of you, when I question how this thing turns out for you if you don't have Jesus, that was a blast today. Boom. Hit you kind of hard. You're not even sure if you like me or not. Trust me, I'm lovable. But it was a blast. Some of you are a little further down the line. You know God is shaping you into something new. I love the way God is transforming your life, and I love watching it. Some of you, man, you have become just polished marble. You're incredible. You're just incredible to call a sister and a brother, and I love you so much. But you're going to have to give yourself over to God and letting Him do this. None of us are the work of art we want it to be. We've made some of our biggest mistakes, and yet God is still working in us and using us, and it's quite shocking. This transformation is the story of Mount Rushmore. This transformation is the story of Levi into Matthew. This is the same transformation God will perform in a woman by the name of Bathsheba. This is the same transformation that your pastor is undergoing, and it's the same transformation God invites you into. It's time. It's time to take a serious step in your spiritual journey. And so for those of us who have been Christians, we need to reignite that prayer life. I want you to start taking some baby steps in your prayer life this week. Start praying short prayers. Just get them in. It'll grow. You'll see, but they don't have to be long right now. Just short prayers. Get them in. And some of you need to take a step toward Jesus. I'd love to meet with you. I'll do it. We can meet right here at the church. We'll get to know each other better. You just got to come and get a phone number from me, and we'll start setting that up. But you're part of the next generation of new believers here at Lincoln Christian Church, and we're excited to have you. But I'm going to pray right now. I'm going to pray, and then you're going to pray. Okay? I'll start it, but then I'm going to ask you to pray something very special. Bow your heads. Father in heaven, you know what? It wasn't a dinner party, but I remember those who brought me to Jesus. I remember a grandparent. I remember a parent. I remember friends, coaches, teachers, people who had a profound impact in my spiritual start. And today I want to be thankful to you, to Jesus, that you weren't put off by sinners. This is who you love to hang out with. Friend of sinners, they accused Jesus of being a friend of sinners. Well, thank you for being my friend. And now I want you to pray. It's probably been a long time since you thanked God for the person who had a hand in bringing you to Jesus. Just do that real quick. They might be sitting right in here today. Maybe you're a guest. Just real quick, just say thank you to them. Who brought you close to Jesus? Who was that bridge? Could you just thank God for them? Now, Father, I turn my attention to those who are not close to Jesus yet. People I love so deeply. I want them to have the same relationship I found. Father, use me as a bridge now for them. Now you pray that too. Someone's on your party list. If you could throw a party with Jesus, who's on your list? Just quick prayer for them. Lord, help them find Jesus. There, that's how easy it was. Lord, please hear our prayer today. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. And everyone said, amen. Let's stand.